anything. Now, can I hear myself? Do I have any of the right audio set up? That's a good question. I'm just gonna have to wait and see. I don't. Why can't I hear myself? Let's check that our volumes are good. Aha. Right, let's pump that a little. Pump that a little. Hopefully that is reasonably audible. I don't know why the music didn't play, but what the hell? Okay. Let's do this. So, I've now taken the somewhat unusual step of connecting to my own live stream just so that I can hear the audio, so I can double check that I can actually be heard properly before I set going. But I'm now going to take that out because that is very distracting. The delay is just a little bit too much. Anyway, let's get on. CAD like no one's watching. Check one, no one's watching. So what am I doing today? I've changed my backdrop. Now it looks rubbish, and that's fine. It's like very early in my journey into playing with Blender, and I do not understand how anything works. So I might spend a little bit of time playing with that, although it is quite aggressive on the old CPU to do a render, so I probably won't get too far. And I have a few adjustments I want to make to some models. But before we get there, let me just make sure I can see the chat. Should anyone join and want to chat, just do so. I still haven't quite figured out how to get the damn thing to embed in the stream properly again. I should probably spend some time looking at that. But for the moment, I think we're good. Let me get some of this clutter out of the way. Right. Let us go look at the screen. So this is, as I said, Blender. This is what the backdrop looks like in its sort of fake mode or its quick mode or whatever. And this looks kind of okay, but the rendering looks terrible. I have a whole bunch of theories that I want to play with, but like I think ceiling texture is way too textury at the moment. I need to really turn that down. Still not very happy with the wall textures. There's a lot going on, but for now I think I'm gonna jump into Blender since that into Fusion 360 since that is the primary thing that I like to play with. We'll note, I think since last time, that we're now on the personal, not for commercial use license because they changed up their licensing, and that's fine. I've gone from, I think they considered it startup before, and now they have a specific personal one at the moment. I think it still does everything it always did, but I guess this over time will allow them to differentiate features, which is perfectly reasonable to do. So first thing I want to play with is this model I was working on earlier. In fact, let me give some context to this. We'll go to Instagram to show some of the stuff I've been working on. So let's see, where are we? Well, we'll start with things that aren't related to this pattern and then come back. So something I've been playing on in this stream, I guess even a couple of weeks ago, was creating the another rotary axis for the laser. So you may well, if you have watched previous streams, recognize this design. If I just pause it there, this is very much just layered up chunks of plywood. So I think what we did was we created two versions of this side, one that would hold a bearing, one that was just big enough for the shaft, and I just cut a few variants of each and stack them up, and then this larger plate to provide this exact distance for the belt, and then the chuck can be mounted. And that all came together pretty well. The one thing I will say, this sort of is not very easy to see here, but I gave it a test run, and the test run did not go well because there was a little bit too much slop and I guess lack of tension in the belt. And so as it was twizzling backwards and forwards to do I was doing a vector path, it was wobbling backwards and forwards. But I fixed that by adding a bit more tension, and then so this is what I was able to do once I added a bit more tension. So you can kind of, again, you can sort of see here these weird wiggly, that was an attempt at that M without the right tension, and it was wobbling all over the place. But there you go. Turned out that it wasn't too difficult to resolve that, and I will, I think, today just tweak the model a little bit just so that the model reflects what I did in reality. I didn't come back and cut a whole new panel. I adjusted it with the Dremel, but I think I might as well modify the model in the same manner, and then yeah, we can see from there. So let's just dump that there, dump that up here. Yeah, okay, so right, so that was that. The other thing I did was take some beauty shots of the key holder that I made recently. Still need to play a bit more with this. This is kind of the best looking version, which in black and white. I do want to get a color version, but I kind of shot it on this like green screen background, and the green reflected on all the metal, so it was a little bit tricky. But anyway, coming back to what we're looking at right now, this was me earlier running the toolpath you can kind of see in Fusion below. So I created this holder jig for these hexagon things. Now, I won't talk too much detail about what these are, other than to say that they are designed to tessellate, and they are for my the Fools with Tools treasure trade run by Ellen this year. So this is my kind of part of the project, but it's not the most important part, but there you go. This worked great. It cut all of these slots, but then I went on to do another one, and I'd just been a little bit too ambitious with how close these slots are to the side, and where I have slight differences in the sanding that causes the diameter to be not quite perfect. It is a little bit too ambitious. So I'm going to cut that back, or rather I'm going to just pull these slots in a little bit more so that they are a bit more consistent without breaking through. And let's do that. So hopefully this will be pretty straightforward. I seem to recall I put in a constraint in the, there we are, in the sketch. So I should be able to see, yeah, so I've made them 1.5 mil. Now, so the challenge is these slots are designed to take magnets, and obviously if you've got 2 mil on each side, you've got 4 mil of wood between each magnet potentially, and magnets diminish their strength over the square of the distance or something. So I just wanted to 2 mil, is that going to be too much? That's the question. I mean, I guess I can always sand the sides back a little bit to take a bit more off. That might be the best choice. So for now, I'm going to do that. And then just come back into manufacture and hopefully, oh, wait, hang on a second. Finish sketch, that's probably what I need to do to get us to, there we are. So we just pulled those in by another 0.5 mil. So I'm only adding an extra mil of wood for the magnets to overcome, so that should probably be okay. So yeah, manufacturing, So what we should find is all those slots are slightly off. Yep, and let's regenerate them. So what I will say is these were the actual slots as cut on that first test were perfect. They fit the magnet beautifully. They just slide right in. And what I'll probably end up doing is filling them up with some glue and maybe some sawdust around the magnet to sort of pack it in. So post-process that and boom, and we can save that off. And right, so the other thing I was going to do, as I mentioned, was go and fix the design for the rotary axis. Let's see. I really do need to think about better organization because I always forget what I'm looking for. Let's. Oh wow. I thought that would be a nice simple search, but no, it failed horribly. So what did I call it? Did I call it K40 rotary or laser rotary? Oh, the other thing I want to do with the rotary axis actually is probably make a different version, different size version of the chuck. So when I first printed the chuck as it came off Thingiverse, it was way too small. So I think I doubled it, but that's a little large. And part of the problem is that, or I guess part of the constraints rather than problem is that whatever you're lasering needs to be about 5 centimeters below the laser. I believe that's the focal distance. So you kind of have to keep that surface there. But in order to make for very small diameter things with the current larger chuck, in order to do that, the chuck itself ends up clipping the gantry or the carriage, which obviously is no good. So I think because I have the roller bed variant of the rotary axis, I don't need to allow for such a large chuck because basically anything more than about 50 mil in diameter is probably better on the rotary bed anyway. So we're really only talking about things below 50 mil. Saying all that, I am still struggling to remember what the hell I called it. I really do need to figure these into their own whatnots. Well, apparently I didn't spot it. ABC K40 bed adjuster, K40 rotary end bracket. So that's the other rotary. I should have called it K40. Laser rotary axis. That's the one. I should probably start that with K40. Maybe I can I rename this? File. I guess I can do save as. Okay. Anyway. So basically what I was saying is that as brilliant as my attempt to make this distance exactly right was, I didn't get it quite close enough. So in reality, I ended up fixing a screw into this hole for the motor and then extending this as a slot downwards and this as a slot downwards. So that is what I want to do. Let's come back into design and we'll create a sketch on this surface. And it's put me around in a weird place. But basically, right, so I want to create, I think you make an arc slot, is that right? Center point arced slot. So what am I selecting first? Select the center point. So I think if I select that center point and then that is the start and we'll just give it like 20 degrees, and then out to match the diameter. That's fine. And then the same thing again. Let's repeat. We'll make that the center of the arc. We'll make that there. And then we'll come maybe like that and out by 4. Is that right? 4. Right. Why have you disappeared my sketches? There we are. You and you. And there we go. And now, much as in the real world, you can kind of mount the motor to pivot here and tension it down and then crank down on this in order to put it in place. So that that is good. Maybe I'll recut it at some point. I probably don't need that hole anymore, but at least for posterity, that is the way we did it. Right, so the other thing I want to play with briefly is a design for the hex coasters. Hex coasters. Design for like a laser cut pencil or something, something of that sort of diameter for the smaller rotary. Oh no, hang on a second. I said all that. What I want to do is create my smaller version of this chuck. That's what I need to do. So the trick here is going to be, so that's all of that, and that's the shaft, right? So we can get rid of probably all of those. So this shaft is essentially in place, and it has a screw on the end. So I think what I want to do is basically retain the size screw thread for the interface point, but reduce the exterior diameter, which might be a bit of a fiddly thing to try. Because obviously previously I just zipped the whole thing, scaled the whole thing in all directions. Okay, let's move you for a second. So yeah, I think part of the problem we're going to have here is I want a lot of things to change size, but in not really consistent ways. Let's, for a start, well, let's just try scale it down by a certain percentage, and then we'll see. Okay, and that one. So let's take it to maybe 75% of this. 4.75. And then the question is, do I have enough meat in here to just expand this interface back up to this same size? Because that is what I really want to achieve. Let's do this. Remove all of this again. So there is quite a lot of possibility there. Can I align along that central axis? You and you. Bump. Exactly so. So I think I could probably get away with, let's move you in like, well, yeah, in like that. And then let's just do a combine. Capture position. You cut key tools, thank you. And then let's move you out of the way. Oh. Move you out of the way again. So in theory, if I print that, I can just screw this version onto the same end of the shaft as the current version, and I can flip between them when I desire. I think in practice I probably need a bit more tolerance on this than I have allowed by doing that. I think I recall that I need to kind of do a like minus 0.2 maybe. Minus 0.2 he says. It's more like it. That's that side. And hang on, let me turn off. Let's turn off the front housing. No, housing is what I want. Turn off the scroll plate. Turn off all those things. Let's come in this side just to relieve the pitch on this a little bit so that it's not quite so tight to the minus. Why have I not hit the minus properly? There we are, thank you. And I might try and take the face back as well. Minus 0.2. Okay, minus 0.1. Does not like that very much. Okay. Well, hopefully that's enough that it won't be too difficult to screw on. So if I switch these back, the other thing I'm wondering about is adjusting these jaws. Because in practice, the bottoms want to. What do we get? The bottoms join and the tops blaze slightly. They don't seem like they come together as neatly as they could, and also I guess you do want more depth, and you don't want. Oh, that's interesting. Have I completely wrecked this? 1 second. Now I'm looking at like. I think scaling has scaling moved you into a really weird position? I think it has. Okay, well, let me just. Oh, in fact, did I switch something on that's not helpful because I feel like I've now got multiple layers here that shouldn't be there? Or did I move? Ugh. What did I do? What did I do? I've moved things in a way that is now compressed together. That's not what I want. So the circlip is there. Jaw. So the housing is now. What is wrong with that housing? It's like that housing needs to come back. Did I capture the position and then move it in a weird way? That's probably what happened. So you need to do that, right? Or at least something close to it. That circlip needs to go in that gap there. That's more like it. Yeah. So I think when I grabbed it and oh right, I aligned it. It doesn't really matter as long as the relative sizes are actually still correct. It'll all work when it's printed in pieces. Right. That just means I need to worry about whether or not I want to adjust these to create more contact point or power. Yeah, so wait, where does the housing shaft come from? Whoa. Did I just switch something on that was unhelpful? What is that? That was obviously switched off before. Right, yeah, so you do go through the bottom through there. Okay. I was just wondering whether I would get away with filling in more on the screw to make the effect of the jaws better, but maybe not. Maybe not. So I could make them slightly taller because it is helpful to have a bit more grip. And if I make them slightly shorter, then I can come out wider without. Because the other problem is that once these are out at their furthest extent, they obviously also increase the overall radius of the chuck, and that gives you clearance problems. So I think I'm going to. Do have clearance problems, but you do also have. You also have only a limited engagement on these threads, which makes life tricky. Okay, I'm just gonna. What if I grow these by like 5 mil? I just want them to have a bit more contact area when they are gripping things. So how far out would they be? I mean, and basically, let me just check. What I realize is that anything that's more than about, say, more than about 50 mil, there's not a lot of point in using the chuck. I might as well use the rotary bed. Radius, diameter 70 mil. So yeah, that's about right, because once you get above 50, you might as well switch. Right, okay. I'm gonna see about exporting those pieces for print, and that will hopefully be something that can export as that I can just switch on to the same basic structure. Why is my pointer has decided that this is a good time to stop reacting and moving? Come on. Thank you. Right. Let's export you. Oh, goodness. That's better. Don't copy. I want to export you as STL. Let's go to K40. Rotary axis chuck. Housing. Scroll plate. Right. And then I think I might even be done for today because I do need to get some stuff on and get dinner cooking and all that good stuff. Circle it. And whilst I did want to play with pen designs for the laser, I don't actually have a very good idea about exactly what I want yet, so it's probably not that helpful to just flail around at that. Let's have jaw C. No, the other circlet. Jaw B, that one. And then jaw B. And then I can also potentially play with Blender, which I say is probably non-conducive to trying to stream at the same time because it absolutely massacres. Where's jaw A gone? There we are. Not in any kind of order. That's helpful. Right. So that's adjusted. That's adjusted. That's adjusted. I've played a little bit with Blender. I will just quickly. So I'm looking at cycles at the moment. So if I do that, that's just going to absolutely cane it. We'll see. Okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to call it a day at half an hour. That's plenty of live streaming for one day. If you happen to hang out, watch it later, say hi in the comments. Other than that, I will maybe see you in a week or two. Thanks for watching.